Good evening. Welcome to Atp Live Monday. I'm not quite sure why the Instagram is not showing. Okay, maybe I'll just go live on Instagram on my phone. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to ATP Live Monday. I'm not quite sure why the Instagram is not streaming, so I'm going to go Instagram Live on my phone, and I hope I'm able to manage that. But welcome everyone, and let's just share the video to our various links, and then we can start. Apologies if my voice sounds tired, but I hope I can pull through today. Welcome everyone. Please let's share the video. We can then we can start. I'm just trying to share it to also our groups so that we can start. If you have any questions, feel free to ask your questions, and we will try and answer them in the next 1 hour that we have. Welcome everyone. I hope we've had a lovely Monday. For those of you who are new, ATP Live is a program where you get to ask any questions that you may have about the health of your children, and we'll try and answer them in 1 hour. But just to let you know that if you have any questions after the live program, you can always post it to our Facebook group from Mondays to Saturdays, and we will try and answer that as well. But this program is just for 1 hour for us to just do it in a live sessions. But after the 1 hour, if you still have any questions about the health of your children, feel free to post it to our Facebook group and we will answer them. So welcome everyone. I'm just trying to share the videos to all our groups so that people can see. And but if you have any questions while I'm doing that, feel free to post your questions already on the group and I will try and answer them. Unfortunately, the Instagram did not go live, which is very unusual. Um, but we'll see how we can manage over the next 1 hour, see how much we can do. Welcome, August 22 and Yankee Sotesh. Welcome on Instagram and those of us on Facebook. You are welcome as well. Feel free to post your questions now and then we will answer them. All right. I'm just trying to make sure I have all the videos pinned on the right groups so that we can start. Welcome to ATP Live Monday. Whichever platform you're joining on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, you're welcome. It's a program where you get to ask any questions you may have from a pediatrician and you get your answers live straight away. So feel free to start asking your questions now and then I will try and answer them. Please remember to start every question with the age of the child and then we need that information to be able to address your concerns. And please be very specific and very direct in your questions so we know the specific information or issue that you want us to address in that question. Good evening, Ifama. I think I'm done with all the sharing and the posting. I'm just going to try and see if I can keep my phone uh, so that I don't have to. Okay, I think I'm good. All right, I don't have to hold it on my hands. All right, so good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ATP Live Monday. Let me now welcome everybody properly. Welcome to ATP Live Monday. I am Gbemisola Boyede. I'm a pediatrician, and my job for the next 1 hour is to answer any questions that you may have about the health of your children in the next 1 hour. This program is brought to you by Ask the Pediatricians Foundation, and at Ask the Pediatricians Foundation, we're committed to the health and the welfare of your children, and we are here to support you in raising healthy children. Our mission and our vision is to see no child dies from preventable conditions. So we do that through our program online and offline as well. So this ATP Live is one of those programs where you get to ask any question that you may have about the health of your children and get your answers in 1 hour. But if you have any questions after the live session, feel free to post it to our Facebook group and we will also answer that. All right, I think I have a question from Ifoma on Facebook. Ifoma is saying, my baby is 2 months old. Is it okay for my mom to soothe my crying baby by giving her own breast to suck? Okay, thank you, Ifoma, for that question. We get this. I've been getting this question frequently in recently, And I think it's an African thing where people think anybody can just put the breast to the baby after the baby just needs to suck. Actually, the answer to that is no. We don't encourage that. There are many reasons why we don't encourage that. Number one, your mother's breast is not like a pacifier. It's not meant to be used for that purpose. And number two, with these days with HIV, hepatitis, and so many other illnesses that can be transferred via blood and body fluids to a newborn baby, we don't want to take any chances. And and babies when they're sucking, there can be bites and marks on the breast that can actually lead to injuries, bleeding, bloody fluid contact. So that is not an appropriate thing. So if you are not home, you should express your breast milk down for your mom to give to the baby, either via a cup and a spoon, or if you even want to do the bottle, well, you can still do that. That is still the way to do it. There are other ways to pacify a crying baby, but giving our own breast to the baby, we don't encourage that at all. It's not recommended under any basis at all. So please tell grandma not to give the baby the breast. She can give the baby the mother's express milk, even through a bottle. That is still preferable. We don't usually recommend pacifiers, but I know some people use pacifier as well, but there are other challenges with that as well. But there are other ways to comfort a crying baby than to resort to using the breast of another person. We really don't want to encourage that. I hope that's helpful. Thank you. I'll go to the next question is from Alimat. Alimat, thank you so much for joining us. She says, is it normal for a 2-year, 11-month-old to drink water frequently? I think depends on what you mean by frequently. So usually for us as scientists and as pediatricians, when you're asking those kind of questions, we want you to be very specific. So, how much water is that child drinking in a 24-hour period? What is the weight of your child? Because there's an amount of water that is expected for a 2-year, 11-month-old to drink in a day. So most average, your child is almost 3 years. An average 3-year-old weighs 14 kilos, and they should be drinking at least 1.2 liters of water in a day minimum. So we want them to drink that much water. So I don't know what it is quantity that they try to drink. Is it sometimes some children just like water, is an habit for them, they just want to go and drink, not that they really want the water, but but is this something like the child is drinking compulsively? Like if you don't make the water available for the child, is the child crying? Is the child going into any crisis or anything like that? So we need more information before we can really tell you. Number one, you need to know the quantity of the water the child is drinking. And is the child drinking just because the water is available? Or if you keep the water access, let me say, would the child keep looking for the water as if the child is really thirsty, and it's not just like a game on an habit or just because the child loves water. Is the child making urine? Is this child also passing urine a lot? Is this child looking dehydrated and all that? Because there are conditions where children have what we call polydipsia, where children they are very thirsty and they are drinking quite a lot. So we tend to get that in children who have diabetes, with diabetes mellitus, with diabetes insipidus. We also get it in children who have some other what we call electrolyte imbalance, like hypercalcemia and all that. So there are instances where it is genuinely the child is drinking too much, and we need to know why, and we need to sort it out. But sometimes it's just purely an habit thing, or sometimes it's just the child just loves to play with water and they just want to. Not that, because if you don't give them water, they'll be fine. And also, if the child is also drinking a lot and passing urine a lot and always being hungry, then that we will think more of a diabetes mellitus. So it varies. So that is why we need to have clarity, and then we can provide more answers to your questions. For those watching on Instagram, please feel free to ask your question. I can't see any question on Instagram, but I will just continue with those I have on Facebook. All right. The question on Facebook. The next question is by Chinaye Lillian Eze. Say good evening, ma'am. My son, 6-year-old, weighs 24 kilos. That's not underweight, definitely. Um, an average 6-year-old actually should be weighing 20 kilos. So if you're 6 years, 7 months weighing 24, that is not underweight. I actually think it's going towards the other end, of going towards overweight, not on definitely not underweight. So we these things are very easy these days because we all have smartphones, and we have different apps. So there are apps for calculating weights and helping you to know whether your baby's weight is age appropriate or not. So I just recommend parents download those baby app for weight measurement. So you just put in the date of birth of your baby, put in the weight, and it tells you the centers. It tells you whether it's normal or whether it's is too high and all that. So you can always do that yourself. And if you look at also your immunization card, there's a weight versus age center, so you can trace it. If you still remember how you used to do graph in secondary school, you can trace the age up and see where the baby's weight is and see on what of the lines is it going above the line. So we have about 3 lines. We have the lowest line, we have the middle line, which is the average, and we have the upper limits, which is the upper limits of normal. And you can pick, depending on which line. If your child's line is falling on the in between the two extreme lines, the lowest and the highest, that is still normal. But if it is falling above the upper line, that is too much. If it's falling below the lower line, that is underweight. But the best option is really just use the herbs. There are many of them, and they are very they are free. You don't have to pay anything. You can just also put it in a chart online, and it will come up to you. But definitely not on the weights. All right. The next question is by Chinagoram. I hope I didn't murder your name up. Sorry for that. He said, my baby is 6 months plus. She doesn't like taking any solid food. Okay. Also, her head and palms are always hot while her body temperature is normal. What could be the problem? There's no problem with the hands. So sometimes the baby's hands is warm or hot according to your own body temperature, not necessarily the child. So I'm happy that you have I hope you use the thermometer, because when you say the body temperature is normal, I'm assuming you are not just making that assumption. You have actually used a thermometer to measure that temperature, and you were getting a figure between 36.5 and 37.5. Any figure between 36.5 to 37.5, that will be normal temperature, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, your 6 months old baby just started solids. So the baby just starting complementary food. So it's too early. It is too it's still very, very early to start saying your child doesn't like taking any solid food. Your child is just starting to learn how to eat solid food. So it is far too early to say that your child does not like solid. So we start talking about your child not eating or not like after you've tried, for quite a while. So for a child maybe who had just only started complementary food, maybe 1 or 2 weeks, I won't call that the child does not like any food. And that is not a problem, because even at 6 months, the child's main food is still breast milk. For a 6-month-old, 80% of that child's food should still be breast milk. We're only saying that breast milk is no longer going to be enough at 6 months, and that is when you now start giving the child solid. So, and it's a gradual process. So it's not immediately you give the child the new thing that the child is just going to jump on it. So we need to understand that. So it is a gradual process, and one of the things we need as parents is that patience and that persistence. I notice a lot of mothers sometimes we struggle with that, because we just want to give the children that food and we just want them to stick it pump like that. It doesn't always work like that. So please be patient and please be persistent. We have a lot of videos on our group. We call it guide section. If you go to our guide section, we have a guide too on complementary feeding, and that guide too will help you to know what to feed the child with. So, and how to feed the child, what quantity to give, how frequently to give. Because sometimes some of us assume that we are replacing the milk with the solid. So we want the child to be taking the same quantity or frequency of feeds that they were taking as liquid milk as solids. That is not the truth. The child is going to be taking a lot of liquid milk, the breast milk, and you are now going to add the solids. And the amount of solids you need to add is actually very small. It's small quantity, and and then we gradually build it up in terms of even the frequency is just twice a day. Majority of that child's meal is still the breast milk, which is a challenge because I've seen some questions also with mothers coming to say, then the child stop sucking breast, the child just wants to take solid, because sometimes mothers actually did what we call replacement. They replace the breast milk with the solid. That is winning. We don't want you to win your child at 6 months, and we're not replacing the breast milk with solids. We are only complementing the breast milk with the solid, because we know that breast milk alone is not going to be enough at the age of 6 months. So I will recommend, if you are one of our Facebook group members, go to our Facebook group and look for the guide section and go for guide to go through it, watch all the videos, go through all the teachings, go through all the examples, and make sure you have the right knowledge first on how to go about complementary feeding, and do it slowly, persistently, and patiently. Let's not rush or jump into conclusion by saying a child who is just started on solid 2 weeks ago is already not liking solids. Most of us don't like anything new, even as adults as well. It's just the same thing. Just imagine yourself going to another culture and they offer you the food for the first time. Some people are very adventurous and they're going to jump onto it, but some of us are also very cautious people. So it takes us time to adjust to new food. So that is how some babies are. Some babies, you offer them food, they jump on it straight away, but some babies take their time. So it is you, the mom, being patient and being persistent, that you will get there. So that is how it is. If you have any questions, Instagram people, please ask your questions. As we have 1 hour we have 30 minutes plus to go, and we will answer the question. But I can see a lot of questions from Facebook people. All right, the next question is from Ngodo issue. Say, good evening, doc. Is there any preventive measure or food supplement that we can give our toddlers to help with rampant illness during this season? Number one, there's a lot of assumption in that question. Um, um, Number one, we don't just talk about rampant illnesses. There are different kind of illnesses, so it's not there's no nothing like a blanket illness. You have to be very specific with the kind of illnesses that you meant. So I think you were really referring to children that go to school, interact with other children, and they still get cold and cough and all that. Okay, I get where you're coming from. So children going to school, they are exposed to other children who have what we call respiratory tract infections, cough and catarrh and all that. Most of those illnesses are respiratory, they are airborne. If you remember airborne diseases, waterborne diseases, if you remember our secondary school days. So most of our children will catch those diseases because somebody else is sneezing or is coughing around them, and they're in a class, which is actually very small, and they're exposed to all these germs. So what keeps your child from having those germs is their own immunity. In fact, all of us are exposed to these germs. The only reason why many of us are not sick is because we have what we call immunity our defense system, that fights against illnesses for us. Okay, so we have those immunity. And what are those immune system? We have what we call our white blood cells, in our blood. We have some antibodies that we have produced in our body from being exposed to germs in the past, either when we actually have the disease ourselves, or through what we call artificial exposure, which is what we do in immunization. So during immunization, we artificially expose the children to a variation of that disease that will not make them to be sick, but it will generate some response, what we call produce some antibodies and immune response. And that means that when the child is now exposed to those germs, that child would not be ill, because the body system is able to fight those germs. However, it is not all the time that our body or immune system will win. Sometimes the number one, the child may not have exposed to that germ before. Sometimes the germ or the virus or bacteria or whatever is too strong for the child's immune system. So I think basically the answer to that question is, how do we boost our body's defense system? And I think that is what you are asking in in reverse, if I can put it that way. Basically, how do we strengthen our children's body system, the immune system, their natural defense system against germs and illnesses? How do we strengthen it so that children do not come down with all these illnesses? So that's number one. But please be mindful of the fact that you can't always strengthen your immune system to fight all infections. So which is why people still fall sick. Otherwise, there's no need for doctors and pediatricians, because we just need to strengthen all our immune system and all the children will be fine. But we all know that that is impossible. We can strengthen our immune system to fight, to resist certain level of infections, but there are still things that we cannot do. So sometimes, running away from a battle is actually the best form of defense. Like, you don't even want to fight that battle. In other words, the first thing is that you don't want even your children exposed to the germs at all. So for example, you can't say we're giving malaria vaccine now, but we still don't want you to now say, okay, because there's malaria vaccine, I'm just going to put my child in a house full of mosquito. The children can still have malaria even though they have the immunization. So it is not always 100%, you know, like that. So we would rather, expose your child to mosquito bites rather than saying, because let's now go and give malaria vaccine. Of course, we'll still give you malaria vaccine. It will protect your child a bit, but it doesn't mean you should now expose your child. I don't know whether you're getting the importance. So the importance is that for our children, we don't want them going to school where everybody is coughing. Children who are sick should stay at home. Wait until they are better before they come back to school. And that is actually better than what do you do to strengthen the children. But in terms of strengthening the children, how do we strengthen immunity generally? We have food. Children should eat well, good nutrition. So there's no particular special food or supplements or drugs. It is the regular food, but the children have to eat them in the right variety, what we used to call in the good old days balanced diets. So when you're trying to eat the protein, we want them to eat the carbohydrate. We want them to eat the fruits. We want them to eat the vegetables. We don't want them to be eating junk food. So children who have good nutritional status, who are eating well, who have a good weight, good height, naturally their body is able to fight infection compared to it. So if a child who is malnourished, who is on the weight, and a child who is having normal weight are both exposed to the same germ, let's even say malaria, the most common one that's in Nigeria, for example, the child who is malnourished, even with the same level of malaria, may likely die compared to a child who also has malaria but is not malnourished, because the child who is malnourished is already, the immune system is already so low. Malnutrition is the number one cause of immunodeficiency. It is not HIV. So that child is already having a low immunity. So when they now get exposed to any infection, that child is going to have more challenges compared to the same another child who is well nourished. The child may still have malaria, but that child is likely going to do well. So that is the difference. So we need to make sure our children eat well. Immunization is a controlled form of boosting immune system. So we expose the children to all these germs. But the challenge with immunization is that we don't have vaccines for all the possible infections. So we have against measles, we have against tuberculosis, we have against some pneumococcal bacterial, the kind of infection they can cause. We have against Haemophilus influenza, hepatitis B, and so on and so forth. But we don't have vaccines against all. But the funny thing is that some people don't even take the one that we have. So we can't even start talking of the one we don't have with such people. So it's important that our children get the immunization, at least protect them against the ones that we have while we work on the ones we don't have. And of course, I've talked about general hygiene, good personal hygiene, environmental hygiene, uh, pure, good, simple, and watching. Very important. So these are things we should be doing to protect our children and, if possible, avoid the exposure. So those are the things we should be doing. So if we do all that, most time our children will not likely fall ill. But when they fall ill, hopefully let's come to the hospital, because like I said, we cannot 100% always protect our children with all these even all these immune booster efforts. We still need to make sure that we reduce the exposure to those germs. I hope that is helpful. Good. I think I went overboard, but I really want us to understand, how do we keep children safe? And because really that is what we do as pediatricians. Really, let's keep the children safe first. But once in a while, we know no matter what we do, some children will still be sick. And then that is when you come to us, and that's what we call secondary prevention. So primary prevention is we don't want the disease to happen at all. But secondary prevention is that when the disease has happened, how do we get it treated quickly and get the child back to their normal self? So that is that. Okay. Next question is from Juliet Odika. My 1 year, 3 weeks old baby snores while sleeping and has noisy breathing. I think it's noisy, you meant to write, at times. So I want to know if it's something to be worried about. Yes, we will definitely be worried about a child who is having noisy breathing, who is snoring. And I think the most important thing we need to be first, want to be sure is there any obstruction on of the airway? Is there anything blocking the child's airway? So I will recommend that you see what we call the ear, nose, and throat doctors, or you can just see your general pediatrician first, and then they can refer to the ear, nose, and throat doctors. But if you have access straight to the ear, nose, and throat doctors, those are the specialists that deal with those kind of snoring. We want to be sure there's no enlarged adenoids or tonsils, which can be a cause of that child's snoring. And depending on how big it is, sometimes we watch and wait. If it's just a noisy breathing and the snoring, but the child is otherwise well, the child is not stopping to breathe, the child is not um, having other complications, not having recurrent infections around the hair. If the child is not having all that, then we just watch and wait, because we know that as the children get older, the tonsils and the adenoids will shrink, and usually by the age of 6, they will go down to the smallest size possible, and most children will be free. But if it's really big, it's causing obstruction of the airway, it's causing recurrent infections, then those are the children that the ENT doctors will advocate for surgery. In other words, to remove the enlarged adenoids and tonsils. So, because we have not seen your child, Juliet, it's difficult to say which one it is. So I think it's best to see one of my colleagues first. They will do the examination, and then they will advise whether we can watch and wait, or we need to do surgery, depending on the size, depending on other complications that is coming along with the with if there's enlarged adenoids and tonsils. I hope it's helpful. Okay, I got a question on Instagram. Show me for King. Finally, how are you? It's been a while. All right, your question is: good evening, dog. Is it medical advisable to squeeze out water, leave water, pump it into the child's anus to enable them to poop? My children are always constipated. I'm tired of giving stool softeners. I think that's all I can see in your question. Number one, we don't encourage parents to pump anything into the child's anus. Please don't. We don't want you pumping or dealing with anything as far as children's orifices are concerned. So please don't pump any water, leave or anything whatsoever into your children's anus. And your question is, you said your child is always constipated. Your children are always constipated. It is not normal for your children to be always constipated. And I think instead of you worried about being tired of stool softeners or whether you should be pumping, whatever, why not let's go down to the first basis? Why are your children always constipated? That is the answer I want to know. Why? Why? We need to answer that question. That is what we want you to focus on. How do we even stop the children from being constipated in the first place? Why are they constipated? And the fact that you say it is your children, not just even one of them, tells me that it is something fundamental with the with the way they are being managed at home. Because if it's something medical, it is very unlikely to capture all the children in the house. So if it's something affecting all the children in the house, then you have to look, what are your children eating? What are they drinking? Are they eating fruits? Are they eating vegetables? Are they drinking enough water? Or are they just feeding on chunks? You need to work on the first basis. So treatment of constipation is, we always have to treat constipation because the stools that are already there, they have to come out. But more importantly, which is what we normally emphasize, because sometimes parents we just run away with the treatment, we run away um with the solution. So they've given you stool softener or whatever. That is not the end of the story. The most important thing is, how do we stop this child from having constipation again? So if you have been focusing on just the stool softener or the pumping, then you are not dealing with the underlying cause. Okay, say they don't like to drink water. They have to drink water, because if they don't drink water, the children are going to be constipated. And children do not need to like. Water is not it's not something you like or you don't like. It's something you have to take. So it is something you have to train our children. And I think we need to get into the habit of making our children drink water routinely. Some of us, we focus on children eating. We don't actually remember to focus on them drinking. So you need to regularly remind them. These days there are apps that reminds you it's time to drink water. I hope some of you have it on your phone. You can download them, they're all free. So you, every 1 hour or 2 hours, you get a pimp on your phone, and just go and drink the water. Get the children to drink water. We should not be starting our children. Some of us started it early by giving our children all these so-called all these Ribena water, glucose water. We made water sweet for babies. Even I see mothers doing it as even in newborn babies. I see them in church at times. You see the brown or the what's it called, the wine colored something in a baby's bottle, and then you know that that's wrong. We should not be giving children those things in the first 1 year of life. They should only drink water or milk. Water. So let's not, when we get, if we train our children to drink water early, and we don't give them something to sweeten the water, they just drink water. The children don't know anything until we introduce it to them. It is what we introduce to our children that they know. So if you don't give them all these so-called juice and all these um you know sweet stuff, they will never know them. So if you give your children only water, they will always know there's only one drink, and that is water. And we should let them just drink water. We should, if it's a child that doesn't like to drink from a cup, you can give them bottles that have straws. Buy colorful bottles, maybe in their favorite cartoon character, things like that. And let them just drink water throughout the day. They don't have to drink water only during meals, which is what some of us do. We think we should only drink water when the child is having their normal meal. We should drink water throughout the day. We should let our children go to school with bottle of water, and they must finish it when they come back. We should remind them. So children don't remember to drink water. We have to remind them to drink water. We want them to drink water nothing less than 2 liters a day. It's really for children who are already like 2, 3 years old. They should, the more water you drink, the better. They don't drink too much water in a way because you will go and pee. So, but basically, at least let them drink 4 to 6 glasses of water every day. It's so important. We can't talk about constipation and say a child doesn't like to drink water. The constipation is not going to go because that is the child is dehydrated and the stool. So what the body does. So let me explain this system is that when you eat, all your food is broken down, is digested, is made into liquid form, and then the body absorbs some part of it. So when the rest, the waste, when they get to the end, to the lower part of the intestine, the rectum, the intestines, the large intestines and the rectum, the body looks at how much water is in your child's body. If they don't have water, they are dehydrated. The body is trying to maximize taking back all the water. So it reabsorbs almost all the water in that stool. So the stool becomes so hard. And when the stools are hard, then the children find it painful to pass out. And then they don't pass it out. Then more stool will come in, then they feel the urge. Then gradually the urge to pass this, the stools or the faces will go away, and that is why the stools accumulate, and that's why the children will not pass stools. So I think the solution is not to be pumping or the stool softener. The solution is we need to get the children drinking water. We need to get them eating vegetables, not biscuits, not pastries. We need to do with all that. If you don't do with that, you're going to be permanently a customer of people buying, stool softeners and all that, which is not even the best. And we may even get to a point where we have to do operation, like a mini operation to bring out the stool, which is something we don't want to do. So chummy for king, your children have to drink water. You have to get them drink water. And the fact that you say it's affecting all the children immediately tells me it is something is something that you have to deal with. It's not something for the doctors. Because if it is one child, some children have medical reasons for having constipation. So children who have what we call H-prong disease and other problems like that. So there are children who have medical reasons. And for such children, we put them on stool softener for a very long time until they have their permanent surgery. We have permanent surgery for H-prong and stuff like that. But if there's no medical reason, then it is boils down to food and diet, is boiled down to water. We have to just work on that and deal with it until, and let the children understand as well, this is why you're having this. So you have to drink your water. And make it something, make water drinking fun, make it something. You drink water as well. You must model. So you see mommy is drinking water. Yeah, it's time for everybody to drink water. Let the whole house drink water at the same time. Every 2 3 hours, everybody must drink one glass of water, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So the way they watch TV, the way they do every other thing, put water drinking as part of their everyday life as well. I hope that was helpful. But if you need more help around that, you can see a pediatrician as well. Yeah. Ufama is saying, when should I be worried about your child not carrying her head properly? We should say a 3 months old should be able to maintain neck control. So their head should be straight, not falling backward or falling sideways. So if at 3 months the child does not have neck control, we will say give it a little bit of 1 month, just in case some children are a little bit slower. But if by age of 4 months there's no neck control, please see a pediatrician. Please know that this 4-month-old is for a term baby. Some of you that your babies were born preterm, we have to calculate their corrected age. So there's what we call corrected age for preterm babies. So it is after we calculate their corrected age that you will compare. So if the baby's corrected age for a preterm baby is 3 to 4 months and they don't have neck control, please see a pediatrician, because delayed developmental milestones tells us something is going wrong in the brain, and we have to do something about it. So that is the time to see a pediatrician. A lot of people ask us a lot about crawling. Since I'm on developmental, we really don't really worry too much about crawling because some children don't ever crawl. So it's one of those milestones that you don't have to bother us with. But if your child is not having neck control by 4 months, if your child is not walking by 18 months, please come and see us and we will investigate as to why, and then we will deal with it. I hope that's helpful, Ifama. Um, let's go to the next question. I seem to have a lot of questions on Facebook today. Okay, and before I go to the next question, let me answer the Instagram people's question. And Achuzia Akinlabi say, how is the corrected age calculated? Thank you. That's a lovely question. Usually it's the job of the pediatrician to do, but I can teach you. But if you don't understand it, you have to come to medical school for that. But basically, what we do in simplest form is to subtract how many weeks the child was born early from the current age. So if you calculate your baby's age based on the dates the child was born, that is their chronological age, irrespective of whether the baby was preterm or term baby. But for preterm baby, let's say your baby was born at 28 weeks and normal gestation, normal pregnancy should last 40 weeks. So that baby was born how many weeks earlier? 12 weeks earlier. That is 3 months. So a baby was born at 28 weeks, was born 3 months earlier than normal time, which is baby was born 12 weeks earlier. So let's say that baby was born on January 1st and today is June 2nd. Let's just say, for the purpose of explanation, that baby is okay, that's 5 months old today. So yeah, 5 months old today. So if I want to calculate the corrected age of that baby, that baby was born on January 1st, baby was born at 28 weeks, and baby is 5 months old today. The baby's corrected age, I have to subtract that 12 weeks or 3 months, if you like, that the baby was born earlier. So even though the baby is 5 months chronological age today, then that baby, to a pediatrician, is still a 2 months old baby because that baby was born at 28 weeks. So we correct like that until the baby is 2 years old. After 2 years old, we stop correcting because we expect the baby would have caught up and there should not be much difference anymore in terms of the how early the baby was born. So for example, if this question was asked, the question somebody just asked me now, like a mom comes to me and say, my 5 month old preterm baby is not carrying an egg, should I be worried? The answer is going to be no, because that baby's true corrected age is 2 months. And like I just said now, the age for neck control is 3 months. So for a preterm baby at 5 months who doesn't have neck control because it was born at 20 weeks, I am not worried. But when that baby is corrected age of 3 months old and that baby does not have neck control, then that is when I'll be worried. I hope that is helpful. And if you get that, you are on your way to becoming a pediatrician. All right, let's answer the question from from Facebook. Princess say, good evening, doc. My 14-month-old daughter has refused to eat. Okay. She's healthy, but depends only on breast milk. Now, breast milk is not going to be enough for a 14-month-old. This is a 1 year old. A 1 year old should be on full family diets. That baby should be eating what you are eating. So there's no way 14 months old. And I'm like, where have you been? Like, we're still talking breast milk in a 14-month-old. No, that's not going. That child that is a recipe for malnutrition. So what is the weight of your baby? You've not told us. And what's the weight of your baby? That weight is so important to me right now. That's the most important information we need to know, because we need to know what is the weight of the baby. But a 14-month-old should not be dependent only on breast milk. In fact, at that age, breast milk is what we call token breastfeeding. Token means you are only breastfeeding that baby as extra to the real food. The breast milk is not the source of that child's calories at 14 months. Breast milk is mainly to give the child protection against infections and all that. So that's why we want you to breastfeed for as long as possible. Of course, it also protects you as the mother against breast cancer and all the right. So there are benefits from breastfeeding for 14 months, 2 years, and beyond. So I'm not discouraging you from breastfeeding, but breast milk is not going to be that child's source of sustenance. That child should be eating everything the rest of the family is eating. So I've done a webinar this year on fussy eaters. So I really want you to go and watch that webinar. Just search on this Facebook, just search webinar fussy eaters in children, or fussy eating in children. I don't know which one, but just look for that and watch it, because what I did is to address all these issues and give you practical steps in dealing with a child who is not eating. Some children are fussy eaters, but we have to work with them, and there are tips, there are strategies that we can use to support. Definitely that child has to be eating more than breast milk at 14 months. Miss Fumi, you're welcome. You're welcome. You can say ask your question. We still have about 5-7 minutes before we round up. And then you said your baby is not walking. So, Princess, I've already answered your question about not walking. I think if you are here, I think I've answered it already. So I will not be worried about your 14 months old not working until your child is 18 months old. So 18 months old is a cutoff for us to worry about walking. So please make sure that um, um you focus on the eating now. For now, that's the most important. Now, what's the weight of your baby? Also, your weight of your baby may also affect the child's ability to do some developmental stuff. So if the child is also underweight, most children, they also don't have that stamina to get up and walk anyway. So we need to work on all that. But walking is actually not our priority now. Is that feeding? And I need you to tell me the weight of your baby, because it's so important for us to know. All right. Fama is asking, is a weight of 6.2 kg in a 2 months old too much? What is the birth weight of the baby? So we need to know the birth weight of the baby. So that will help us to know. So babies are born at 5 kilos. So if a baby was born at 5 kilos and is now weighing 6.2 at 2 months, definitely I'm not going to say it's too much. So the weight which baby started with is important too. We need to be sure the weight is accurate, because sometimes some of these scales there are errors. So usually when people give me a weight that looks unusual, either too low or too high, the first thing I want to do is to recheck that weight to make sure it's not an error, human error, scale error, parallax error, all those kind of errors. So if it is truly correct, then we can now start talking about all the reasons. So if the birth weight was 3.2 and the baby is now 6.2, that is a little bit on the high side. But if you're sure you're only breastfeeding, I'll just keep breastfeeding exclusively. But we'll need to keep an eye on that weight. I would say just recheck the weight again and be sure it is not an error, because then the next time somebody will weigh the baby, they may say, oh, the baby is now back to 6 kilos, and we've seen that before. So most times, sometimes it's error, but there's nothing you're going to do at this point, but keep breastfeeding, but we have to keep an eye on the weight. And if it keeps rising, we'll have to see a pediatrician, because there are certain medical conditions that cause children to have what we call excessive rapid weight gain. So those kind of conditions, we need to, usually our pediatric endocrinologists manage them. There are genetic conditions that some babies will be very big. They may be normal birth weight, but then they gain weight rapidly. So we have things like Prader-Willi syndrome and all this kind of stuff. So, which is why we need to keep an eye. And if it's just a once-off thing, nothing much, fine. If you just keep rising rapidly, maybe the next time you wait, maybe it's now 7 or 8 kilos, then we'll be worried about that baby, definitely. So that's what I will say about that. Okay, Princess, let me just answer your question. For your baby was 3.7 and is currently 11 kilos. 11 kilos is not bad for a 14-month-old baby. That is good. Your baby is taking potato chicken formula. Okay, that's good. But you give us the impression your baby is only on breast milk. So we answer your question the way you asked it. But definitely your child should be eating a lot more. So watch that webinar on fussy eaters and try and add more strategies. And you will want to be reducing the blending, let the child start eating more of the solid rather than blended diets. Again, something because you don't want to get the child now dependent on only food that is blended and not eat solid. These things have to be done in the right sequence. Otherwise, you are going to face more trouble in future when the child does not want to eat solid. So we really want you to get over all this blending and matching before the age of 1 year. By the 1 year, want them to be taking real solid. So, but not too late. So you're still on your way. So, but you need to work on that. All right, Hefama is asking, my 2 year, 2 month old has always been around 12 kilos to 13 kilos. Last time I checked was 12.5, but he got sick and went back to 12 kilos and it's yet to add up that weight. I'm not worried about your baby's weight. 2 year old should weigh 12 kilos. So 12 kilos is fine. I'm not worried about it at all. So just leave it as it is. Baby was actually going through overweight before, but now 12 kilos is actually the weight of a 2 year old. So I will not worry about it. All right. So that's fine. Okay, I think I've answered Princess' question. Chema Favor, good evening. What could I do to pump it to ensure I pump a significant amount quantity of breast milk? Number, why do you need to pump? You can breastfeed your baby directly if you have to. If the pump is as good as the manufacturer of the pump, but you know what, the best pump is your hands. It's your hands. You don't need the machine, you don't need the breast pump, electric, manual. You need your hands to pump your breast actually. So if you go to our Facebook group, or if you have the Birth and Beyond app, there are breastfeeding videos. There is one on how to express and store your breast milk safely. So there is one that actually teaches you how to express breast milk, and in that video there's no breast pump. There's no breast pump. Good old hands is good, but you need to know where to press. So the breast milk is not stored. Most of us, we press on the upper part of our breast that is very fleshy and all that. That is not actually where the breast milk is. The breast milk is not that. The breast milk is stored under your areola. So your nipple, there's a black part after that nipple. That is your areola. That is where the breast sinuses are. They make sinuses. That is where they are. That is where you need to press. You don't need to be doing all this extra massage. So, and there's a technique to it. It's a pumping technique. So if you look at the video, they show you how to put your hand in a C position, and then you press on that areola path. You press it, you will see your milk gushing out like a tap. Then you press it again, you see it popping out like that. That is how to pump your breast milk with your own hands, and you don't even need a breast pump. So it takes, I know it's a technique that you have to learn. You can watch the videos and see. Of course, electric breast pump make life easier for you because you don't have to stress yourself, pressing. So you just attach it. And so sometimes if you are just starting your motherhood journey, you may actually want to just invest in something that is how would I call it, that is sustainable for you in long time. So if you want to spend a little bit more of extra cash on electric breast pump, I think they tend to be better. But if not, just learn the technique using your hands. Our nurses, midwives, or even lactation consultant, they can show you, or you can watch those videos. It shows you how to do it, And when your baby is breastfeeding one side, you can be expressing on the other side, make it flow faster, So there are ways to do it. But most people just keep pressing here. It's not up here. That one is just muscle and fats. That is all the part that looks so bulk. The part that you really need for your breastfeeding is actually just lower down in the breast. It's just the nipple, the areola. Most of the other part is just, for your body figure and image. They don't really have much as far as breastfeeding is concerned. That's why we tell mothers worry that, oh, my breast is small, I can't breastfeed. No, whether you have a big breast, whether you have a small breast, you have the same 20 milk sinuses. It's the same number, so it doesn't matter. So whether you have a big breast, so people think people who have bigger breasts are going to find it easier to lactate. It's not true. That's not how breast milk work. So it's the same 20 milk sinuses running through the breast and getting then they have what we call a dilatation or mixed sinus, and that is where the milk is stored. That is where you need to press. So when you press it and you express that one, then more milk will flow down, because that is why you press and stop, so that milk will flow down, and then you press and then more will flow. So there's a technique to it. So once you get it right, you'll be fine. All right, I think that's the last question. And on the last dot of 7 p.m. By the way, Choma, if you're not a working mom or something that needs to go, you just breastfeed your baby directly. Take a baby with you everywhere you go. But if you are going to be a working mom and leaving the baby at home with nannies and grandmas, yes, you have to learn to express your milk so that the baby can feed while you're at work. So otherwise, just take your baby with you. It's fine. You don't have to express at all. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. ATP Live Monday has been brought to you by Ask the Pediatricians Foundation. Sorry about those on Instagram. I don't know what happened to our StreamYard. It just didn't flow on Instagram today, but notwithstanding, I was able to um, use my phone to compensate. But if you still have any questions on any of the issues that have been raised or something completely different, please feel free to go to our Ask the Pediatrician Facebook group. Mondays to Saturdays, post your questions there. We will try our best to answer them. We try our best within 24 hours, sometimes 72 hours, but we'll try our best within 72 hours to answer your question. We also have our ATP family and ATP Still a Mom Facebook groups where you can also get support. We are going to be celebrating our 10-year anniversary in July, and so we want you to be part of that celebration. We are excited, grateful to God for the opportunity to have supported parents, mothers especially, for the past 10 years on social media platform and outside social media in all the communities. There's hardly no states or community that we have not done at least one outreach in the last 10 years. So, and that is amazing. So we're grateful to God for that. So we're going to be celebrating, and we look forward to you being part of our journey and our celebration. We look forward to you telling us your ATP story. How has ATP impacted you? We look forward to at least maybe we should get 10,000 people sending us their ATP stories. We have over 700,000 people, so it shouldn't be a difficult thing. And of course, we're also looking forward to raising funds to do more outreaches, to reach more communities. So watch out for our ATP support ATP at 10 with 10,000 naira. So watch out for that. You can be sure that any money you give to ATP goes directly into a project to support children. We don't pay volunteers, and none of us take a salary from ATP. So you can always trust us in terms of whatever you give. But whichever way you feel like supporting us, you're welcome. So thank you so much for joining us. Look out for all our announcement about our annual 10th anniversary celebration, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Sorry if my voice was a little bit tired. I had a very busy weekend, but thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. I'll see you next week, God willing. But if you want to learn more about all these things I've talked about, we have our website where you can read, we have our podcast where you can listen, we have our YouTube channel where you can watch all our past videos, and you can learn a lot from them as well. And of course, our Facebook groups are the zones where you can get immediate answers to your questions. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful evening, and it is bye-bye. Bye.